Hello and welcome back to Intuitive Journey with Desiree. I'm Desiree Holmes Scherini, your host, and I'm glad again to be joined with Joseph Turiano, my fellow hypnotherapist and intuitive. And we're going to be talking about spiritual narcissism, spiritual narcissists, and gurus gone bad. We decided to talk about this because we were having a conversation about people and personal experiences. And we realized that this is maybe something that people should start recognizing red flags for, not just in personal relationships, but in following people that are saying that they're spiritual leaders, and how to tell the difference or what to look out for before you go down the wrong path sometimes. So welcome, Joe. So I'm going to start out just reading off some characteristics of cult leaders that match narcissism, okay? Charismatic and persuasive, authoritarian and controlling. And one of the characteristics of a cult leader is narcissistic and entitled. Unpredictable. They can be exploitive, looking for personal gain, including financial, sexual, or emotional exploitation. Under the narcissist and entitled, they need admiration and they lack empathy. They can have zero tolerance for criticism, questioning or challenging, or they will punish or exclude people if they feel criticized. And they will engage in a us versus them sort of mentality. You know, you're either with me or you're not, and I'm the one that you need to trust. And a lot of times, narcissists in general can be drawn to religious settings because that gives them the opportunity to be admired and gain status and power. So I confess here, I did some digging on particular cult leaders and stuff. So I will be looking down here at my notes and highlights. And so they'll also distort religion. They'll decide that my teachings are the right teachings and you can't trust anyone else. They justify their behaviors through their religious teachings or beliefs. Control, manipulation, etc. So, and there is also an imbalance of power in narcissistic relationships and in cult leaders. You're not invited to, as a member, to voice your opinion. You simply follow. They also often ask for, just blind obedience, and et cetera, so forth. So, all right. They can damage relationships. Okay, now narcissists have all those same characteristics, right? And that was cult leaders. That was a description. I'm pulling off a lot of, Google and Wikipedia. That was a description for cult leaders. But narcissists themselves can have damaged relationships and spiritual abuse. So they can cause emotional and psychological harm to the people they're involved with, and eventually create an erosion of trust. And if it gets far enough. So I have quite a list of cult leaders gone bad. And so to take a break before I get into that, and what Joe and I were talking about is, you can have these relationships on a personal level, as well as, there are these people out there. And so, Joe, starting with you, personal experience, let's go back to that story that you were talking about that triggered the idea of doing this, about the spiritual narcissist that perhaps you, or narcissists that you've encountered, and I'll share some of my experiences.
Well, I guess the experience I had in Australia is the first one that comes to mind. And I don't know,
just recap that.
or whatever, so I won't mention any names, but
right.
That is certainly my impression of this particular individual who insisted on being the leader of this group, which was aligned, according to what he said, with the Alice Bailey teachings, if anybody's familiar with those.
The Ostrist.
I actually, prior to ever meeting him, went to a little seminar with a particular individual who lectured about the Alice Bailey teachings, and I didn't necessarily find them to be the most compelling thing I ever heard about, but I felt like if the ethics behind them were to be followed, that it would be a pretty solid kind of way of living, a spiritual path that hopefully would not lead you to arrogance and these sorts of things that we're talking about. Unfortunately, as you can be surprised by many different settings in life, when I encountered this particular individual and another one who was, well, his mentor, I encountered certain things about them where apparently they had taken this work and essentially become somewhat, well, more than somewhat, maybe, self-righteous about a lot of things. I saw the way they lived their lives, where they'd come from, things that had happened to them, personal patterns and personality and things of that nature. And that helps me to understand what led them to where they were. They were very dogmatic, which to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense in a spiritual sense, but they were just all about this. They were saying, Alice Bailey knows it all and superior to any other teacher who's ever lived or breathed. So these are the truths, and you must study them. But all this other stuff, don't get into that. And they were, yeah. If you were to ask them anything related to that, they were, well, extremely opinionated, and about other things as well. Just whatever political things. I remember getting into a discussion with the one individual, not this other person, but his mentor. I mean, we were talking about Vladimir Putin. He was telling me about what a hero Vladimir Putin is, what a wonderful guy, and how his people love him, and he's just an awesome person and a great individual.
This guy live in Russia?
Well, no, he lives in Australia. If he did, I guarantee if he lived, actually, they have a different side to it. And probably. Look, this is a part of it. I don't take one side or the other dogmatically, but he saw subtlety to this. He thought, I tell you what he thought. Essentially, his part of his whole life view is that the United States is the world's great Satan, and we are the worst thing that ever happened in this world, and we're at fault for everything, and we've never done anything right. But somebody like Putin is the hero and the wonderful person who's going to save humanity, and he's such a great guy, and he's not selfish at all, and all that money he stole and all that other stuff, all those things that he's done, all killing off political opponents, that's all propaganda. He didn't really do that.
And you can say that on both sides. It's like every side.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I totally admit that. I mean, that's
the problem. Is like, so the dogma, like it's this way.
That's it. Yeah, he was so fixated
or
things one way or the other, and that was often the way those two saw things. It would just be like, well, this is it. I know, you don't. I'm right. You're wrong. I'm on the right side. If you disagree with me, you're on the wrong side.
Exactly.
My way or the highway. I know what you don't, even about your life. If you think maybe, you know better, you don't, you don't even know yourself as well as I know you, because
trust me, right?
So-and-so is telling me this about you. So, so I know you better than you know you. And so you need to listen to me. And if you think you know anything I don't, first off, that's number one sign that you don't know anything, and you are wrong. So, if not only am I going to tell you off, but Master so-and-so of the seventh ray is going to lecture you about your error of your ways, and what a terrible person you are, and how you're a scumbag, and how you need to measure up now, because like, you better step up and follow my right hand man, because you're obviously walking in darkness here, and you're listening to the Dark Brotherhood. The Dark Brotherhood's got a hold of you. So the Dark Brotherhood, they're telling you these things and deceiving you. So you need to wake up, because that's just how it is. And like, don't ever trust anything that you think inside yourself. Just listen to me, because I know, and I'll straighten you out. That's all you need. that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Including sexual stuff, other things like, whatever, telling people that they need to be doing this one thing or another with whoever, whatever way, however way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I experienced that.
Classic cult leader,
Mhm.
narcissism. It's like, I know, you don't know, trust me. And and then creating self-doubt. You should doubt yourself, doubt your own intuition, doubt what you believe to be true at all.
Right.
If it doesn't agree with what with what I'm saying. And you mentioned, was it the same woman that in Australia, excuse me, that there's also something like you mentioned there. So I think she said somebody had said, well, I'm getting this information that you need to do this, right?
Yeah.
Even in an interpersonal relationship, right?
Well, there was one. See, all right. So the leader of this group, with this person I came to see as a cult leader, he happened to be gay. He was basically the oldest and closest friend to my then fiance. They weren't involved romantically, but he at the time he was putting this group together, which my fiance wanted me to join at that time. Bunch of people had come together from different places in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
This one individual, who was another male in this circle, was married to a woman who was outside the circle, who had remained behind in another city in Australia. Apparently, this man who enjoyed the circle, approached the leader of this group, and they began a relationship. Like they were, it was a gay relationship, which is fine. I have nothing against. But there came a point where this man who became involved with him said, I'm still married. I need to go back and see my wife. I need to, work this, see what there is, work this thing out, maybe make an agreement. I don't know if I'm going to leave, or I don't know what we're going to do. I just want to go back. So, of course, the leader of this group gave him a channeled message from Master so-and-so saying, how would you dare to go back to your wife? You had best not even be thinking about, dissolving this relationship. You need to be with him here. And if you go back to your marriage, you'll be missing out on an extremely important opportunity that will not be presented to you for several lifetimes. So you really need to toe the line here and just straighten out, because what you're thinking or what you're considering, that's just absolutely unacceptable. And he had given me certain directives as well, not sexual or anything like that, but just in the same tone, in the same spirit. In other words, don't you dare question me. Don't you dare even think about not going along with what I say you need to be doing, or what I say is right. Because I questioned him, not really overtly. I could have questioned him a lot more, and I almost wish I had, like in front of the people who followed him. But
Yeah.
I asked him certain questions. I kind of said, I don't think I believe. I don't know. I don't necessarily. And of course, later on, he gave me channel messages from, oh, no, you're wrong. How dare you, and all this kind of thing. Same deal. It's like, Master so-and-so tells me what I need to do and what you need to do. And somehow that just miraculously always aligns with what is advantageous to me.
What they want, yeah.
Puts me in the highest possible light and makes me be seen as the wisest, the best, the most, the one who gets everything the way he wants it, and has everything and never loses, and has everyone come to him and offer up everything they got.
Yeah. You know what? That exact scenario happened. Exact scenario, except for I don't know if it was homosexual or not. But I'm going to find that note and let you hear that exact scenario in one of these well-known cult leaders. So digging through my notes, I couldn't find the exact example. Maybe it'll come up while we're talking further. But yeah, same scenario happened with one of the more well-known gurus gone bad, or cult leaders that pretty well known. And so go on with that.
I was just saying, there are a couple of instances, a couple of stories that I've found to be quite interesting. A couple even from the 20th century. I don't know if you've ever heard this particular story. One of them, J. Krishnamurti, ever hear of him?
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
he
So,
was. I know his whole story. I
there's a
studied
lot.
theosophy.
Oh, that's
And,
right. You've been aligned with the Theosophist. So,
and so, what I want to throw out there for the listeners, Alice Bailey was a theosophist. I don't know. I haven't read. I don't know if I've read any of her stuff. These were what do we call them? Second generation theosophists almost. But one of the things that I appreciated about theosophy was that the founder, in her main book she wrote, she says, this is not, religion. This isn't a Bible. This is you guys decide for yourself.
right.
This is just I'm just sharing information that I come to. Believe it or don't believe it. Take it for what it is. And so that's one of the things I do appreciate about it. So when somebody takes something that is produced in that thread and then turns it into this is the truth and the only truth, and this is, turns it into a religion that it was never meant to be, at least, the information wasn't meant to
In
be.
that case, in this case, though, that's not necessarily what happened. It did and it didn't.
Okay.
That's one of the most interesting things about the whole story. And there's some things that, and let me just start out with this. I've lectured for the Theosophical Society. I like the Theosophical Society. I think there's a lot of good in the Theosophical Society. I'm saying nothing against the Theosophical Society at all. The case of J. Krishnamurti in particular, a lot of people don't know the whole history.
Yeah,
See,
that was a weird
in
story.
1909, at the age of 14, he was discovered by an individual by the name of C.W. Ledbetter. Ledbetter was aligned with the Theosophical Society. Prior to even discovering Krishnamurti, he had been thrown out of the Theosophical Society. The reason he had been thrown out is that allegations were brought against him of a sexual nature. It was said by his detractors that he liked to molest young boys. We don't know that to be a fact or not. He was eventually reinstated. Apparently, no clear-cut evidence was ever presented. I can't say that I know it or I don't know it.
I have no idea.
I can say, however, that Krishnamurti was 14 years old at the time, a young boy who was very good looking. I can also say that C.W. Ledbetter kind of took him under his wing. I can also say that's basically based on the work of Ledbetter and a few other people who became involved in this, including Amy Bazan. Krishnamurti was put forth as a figure who would be like the next Jesus. They said this individual will be the next world teacher. He will be it. He will be appointed essentially by the ascended masters to tell you all about, what's right in life and all these things, give you the spiritual truths. For a time, there was a society called the Order of the Star, which was assembled for that very reason. About 100 years ago, 1925. It wasn't, I'm not going to say there were millions and millions and millions of people who followed this, but there were tens of thousands. And they expected him to be the next Jesus.
A lot of pressure.
Unexpectedly, he turned on them. He renounced the whole thing. He said, no, I am not the world teacher. No, this is not going to happen. No, I no longer agree with these people. And don't you listen to them either, because they're going to tell you about these masters. And they're going to tell you this or that. Forget it. He said, the truth is a formless path. I don't believe in this stuff, and you shouldn't either. Don't let anybody tell you any dogma of any kind in any way. He became a teacher in his own right subsequent to that and garnered a fairly large following, and he's still followed by a number of people to this day. However, there's an interesting sideline to this whole thing. It's pretty much well known and basically established that he was all along, well, pretty much all along, conducting an affair with a woman who was married to his closest friend. Later on, this woman's daughter, his name was Rosalind Williams, published a book that said Krishnamurti had not only conducted this affair with her mother for a number of years, but it also essentially forced her into a bunch of abortions. Also, continued to have many illicit sexual affairs with many of his female followers. Had done any number of other things, and had essentially misused his authority and lied about it systematically. These allegations, well, you can find them on Wikipedia. How many of them were actually proven in an ironclad way? Some of them could be disputed, I'm sure. But apparently, according to the record, at the very least, the affair that he had with Rosalind Williams is essentially established. It's quite interesting that he said, "Don't listen to gurus. Don't let them."
Not even me, right? Exactly.
Why did he say that? Because they might exploit you in various ways and they might mislead you.
Isn't that
Personal experience of that happening to him? Seems like he did.
Mm-hmm. And
Did
then
he
he
do
did
that to some other people later down the road? Seems like he did. Maybe
Yeah.
a personal experience why you shouldn't listen to gurus. And he was the guy who said you shouldn't, yet he continued to be a teacher, right? And he was
Yes.
kind of occupying this gray area where he would say, like, don't believe everything I say, but I still want to teach you.
Right.
You
And
miss
they
your
put, yeah,
authority?
I'm not the master. I'm not here to do that, but I'm going to do that. You know,
I
I'm still
think
going to
things,
say,
though, I mean, I still believe that some of his teachings may have some value to this day. He wasn't wrong about everything. But did
and
he
that's
miss authority? Apparently he did.
and that's the thing is, and I think the overarching thing about like the spiritual, you know, narcissism showing up in spiritual leaders, is there's just like we talk about, you know, theosophy, there's a lot of good. And then, you know, or just like religion, if you go too deep in one direction, too far in, like Alice Bailey's writings, too far to take it beyond what it was ever meant to be, then it can go bad. Then it can be, you know, wrong. It's like, you know, a piece of cake is good, but if you eat the whole cake, it's bad. You know, eating, you know, healthfully is good, but if you don't have, you know, a balanced diet, then it's bad, right? So, metaphor, but so there's that moderation. We talked about this actually in in the interview with you, that finding a balance, you know, emotionally as well as in what we listen to, right? And how much we believe. And individuals putting people on a pedestal as being absolutely right, you know, is, you know, when we talk about blaming the you know, cult leaders, there's also, you know, personal responsibility in how far you trust a cult leader, how far you trust a spiritual leader, and hence being, you know, exploited, manipulated. People need to, you know, step back and make educated as well as intuitive choices
Yeah.
about whether to get sucked in.
Yeah.
And we, you know, of course, politics is another good example about too far one way, too far the other way. You know, somebody's your hero or somebody's, you know, the most awful person, and really, it's all a lot of
And
gray.
that happens. Yeah, one side or the other will do the most unethical things
Yeah.
and say it's, well, it's justified, but then when they see the other side doing it, that's it, they're Satan. It's, you know,
Yeah.
that whole
Yeah. So, like, and you talk about, you know, your personal experience. You actually had a cult leader. What I've noticed with some, you know, in this circle of people I know, is, and just even on Facebook, watching people on Facebook that are in like a healing modalities or that sort of thing. Sometimes, and this is true, I think happens with this whole, you know, cult leader thing or spiritual leader, start with the best of intentions or begin as a, you know, moderate, and they're simply doing things to be helpful, or to try to heal or try to help others, and then that whole ego thing comes in, and you I start to see a transition from somebody sharing information or discussing a topic to being, I've had a down, I've had a message, I have a, you know, ching, 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 I'm prophesizing, um, and you know, or saying, you know, this happened and I predicted this, and maybe it's true, but then the ego might get wrapped up
yeah.
with their success, or with then feeling that they need to tell other people, I'm the one, you know, and seeing themselves as better than, and then that's the whole. I'm better. I'm smarter. I have the secret, and you don't. Right? It's like, and you don't know better. Therefore, I need to tell you how to be. And people, especially people that are feeling confused or looking for direction, can get sucked in to something deeper than they need to be. And so that's where I'm
in my opinion, you should never be too unquestioning about anything. It's to some extent, since we're talking about these things, I mean, we're talking about leaders, and we're saying, I mean, if you're in a position to hear from somebody who wants to tell you something, it may be easy to just say, hey, wow, this person knows, and I need to listen to this, but if they say this, I'll trust it, whatever else. You never uncritically trust any source ever in any way. Never, doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter if it's your church and you feel such a sense of loyalty to it. Doesn't mean it, it could be your family. It could be your political party. It could be whatever else. If you lose the sense to critically evaluate those people who you say, oh, I'm loyal to them and they're me and I'm part of this whole thing, then you're beginning to lose the battle already. You're moving in the direction of mental illness, really, because that's what we're talking about. Narcissism can occur on an individual level. It can also occur, and probably more often occurs, on a group level. So if you say it's me and my family against the world, it's me and my political party against the world, it's me and my religion against the world, then you divide those who you are identifying with from those who you are not, and you're moving in the direction of narcissism right there. You're bringing it on yourself. And it comes somewhat from this inclination that we have of wanting to find answers that are too convenient, too easy. Oh, look, the Bible says it's got all the answers. Isn't this great? Now I don't have to seek truth or dig any deeper. I'll just say the Bible has it. Well, really, there's everybody has to interpret it, and you hear to interpret it. Oh, they must be right. Well, that's the only interpretation. What about this other person? Oh, no, they're misinterpreting. See, it's this whole continuous idea. I want to find this side that I could take, rather than look at what's right objectively without these arbitrary divisions and find answers that are just too convenient.
Yeah, a guru or organization that welcomes questions and deeper investigation or better understanding, I think, is what anybody should be looking for. If they're saying, no, this is it, and you're stupid for even asking the question, then something's up, right?
All right. Yeah.
So I'm going to pause this conversation at this point, and we'll come back.
All right.
We will discuss particular, gurus gone bad. And, the next section is my alarm's going off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a stop on this, and we'll come back. Look for part 2 of Spiritual Narcissists and Gurus Gone Bad in the next episode.